Hi everyone, Emma here. I am so excited to show you how to make this lovely bracelet today. So we're going to do at least 4 here. We might start into the next set of beads just so that you can get an idea about this middle piece here. So to just confirm that, so we're going to do that, and I'm going to do a video after this with like an addendum for this bracelet. This is basically the same bracelet, the difference being we've added different colors in the middle. And what I might do too for that video is I might create something like this, but then I'll also show you what it looks like if you decide to change all your Ado beads to, I might do some variations where we do just the ones that are in sets of 4, so the middle row and the side rows, and then I might do a different one showing the tip at the edges here. I'll try and find a really neat color scheme like this one to do that with. This one's, if you do some bead weaving, let me enlarge this. It might not be, I'm going to leave this so that you can see and maybe do a screenshot. So you can see how to add the different color. It's simple, but when you're doing a lot of this like this here, just getting the pattern is like enough of a new thing. Then when you start adding the different color, because each bead is associated with a different iris duo. So this middle one always has one on top, one on bottom, and regular color on the sides. Then these two side ones have, one side has it on the left side, one side has it on the right side. So you do have to pay attention. And even when I was doing a bunch of this, I ended up, like if I wasn't paying attention, I ended up with a green bead somewhere else. So you don't want to have that. The other thing I did with this one is I used a 2mm druck, check glass druck for the middle, and that worked out really nice. So and that was these here. They usually come on strands like this. So the opportunity for really cool colors are greater with this as well. And if you pay attention now, they just had a sale at Art Beads. Their $1, $2, and $3 bead sale. I usually just stick with the $1 stuff, and I found that this time when I did look for the 2 and the 3, it took me a while to go through all the $1 ones, but then when I went to the 2s and the 3s, there really wasn't that much of value left, but definitely the $1 one. So that's coming soon. Thanks to Diane. She's intercepting the package for me. It's going to be a massive, crazy unboxing. So stay tuned for that. So let's get started on this one. This is so lovely. Let me you can do a screenshot of this one. I'm going to do it this way so you can see, and then this way for you. So I don't know if that helps doing the screenshots. I know for myself it does, so I thought I'd start doing that to see, especially if you're getting a little more complex in your design. So you're going to need iris duos, and that's these lovelies here. Just to let you know, if you're new to beading, these iris duos have a top and a bottom. So the top is nice and rounded, and let me grab my needle here. And it has 2 holes on each little peak side, and then it has a bottom. So for this design, we are going to work with the rounded edge as the top of the bracelet, so that'll help you follow the design. And then the bottom edge is the flat side. And this bracelet, you could essentially wear it both ways. So we're going to put a clasp on it that's going to make that possible. But yeah, it looks really cool on the flat side too. But I mean, come on, look at that. Oh, so amazing. This is like one of my favorites, and it's really fun to do too. So now I say that, but it is a bit confusing at first. So when you're doing top and bottom sided beads, sometimes a little trick that helps is to position them on your mat how you want them to sit. So if you're doing, you know, say a little star pattern, you can set them up. So then when you go to pick them up, if your seed beads are on this side, then you go in this way, kind of thing. So, but I'll show you that as we get closer. So I'm going to set those aside. Now I have a magnetic clasp, 2 jump rings, and 1 wire guardian. And I put a wire guardian on there already. So we're going to go ahead at the end. I'm going to show you how to do this pattern, and then we'll finish it off on this bracelet. Now the amount of iris duos that you're going to need is going to depend on your wrist size. So my wrist is super small. It's a 5 3/4 wrist. And if you normally, they suggest you add between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch to your wrist size to create the bracelet. That depends on how you like to wear yours. If you like it snug, not tight, but snug, it still moves around, I would go for the 1/4 inch. So this one here, now I don't know if you can see this, but one of these, the blue one's smaller. So you have to incorporate your clasp as well. So this one here with the magnetic clasp, I actually overdid this one. This should be maybe, so here's the problem, how you want to finish your bracelet. Do you want to finish it in this diamond pattern, or do you want to finish it straight across this way so that you leave out this? If you do it this way, I suggest you do some type of embellishment with your beads over here, and maybe use a clasp like this there. So that would work really well. And this is one of those magnetic clasps. It's a 3-hole. So so this one is going to be a little loose for me, but that's fine. This one you'll see. Well, I'll show you the difference here. So this is a 5 3/4 wrist. You can see how close that is. And I like mine like that. I don't like them sliding down my wrist. So unfortunately, once I add everything, it will be sliding down. Didn't think that one through. So then this one here, I did do smaller. And you see the large gap, but if you take a look at this clasp, or you could use a different clasp. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, I can't show it to you on my wrist. But, you know, once you add some beads and your clasp, it will fit perfectly. So let's put that one aside. That's for another video. And let's just put these guys over here and get started. So you need your iris duos, and you need some 8/0. Oh, this is funny. I can't believe this is like, I bought these a long time ago, years ago. Here's the other thing with, so these are 8/0s with the different color of a certain color. So the different shades of a certain color. These here, definitely the iris duo is a different color than these 11/0s. And did I? No, I must have put my 11/0s away. I'll have to grab those. So the 11/0s are different than these 8/0s. But you know what? Once you get it on there, you can't really tell. And actually, these 8/0s kind of go with the iris duo. So just sure, I only mention that because I am so picky. I'm like, oh, it doesn't match. Let me go buy more. You guys are probably like, oh gosh, Emma, you don't need any excuses to buy more beads. So let me grab those 11 O's. I think these are the ones. Yeah. So they actually look the same. I'm putting them side by side so that I can see. I don't know. I think they are the ones. These are metallic true silver. So, okay, so let's do these. The thing with the 11 O's that's important is to make sure they are round. So I don't know. Let me see if it says. So the check seed beads are usually pretty round compared to, say, a Toho. Let me see. Yeah, so I have a Toho. Now this is an 8, but they are very tubular. Even though some of these will even, yeah, so this one even says Toho round, but just so that you know, that looks tubular to me. And it's not just me. when you put it on your bracelet, you see how this sits very tubular. If it was round, it would kind of snug into the other beads. So that's, now I did this one with the 8 O's as tubular, and they look really good. But you see I've added round, very round 11 O's. So just so that it sits nicely with the Iris Duo. I think if you tried a different a Toho 11 O, it would look more like Delica beads. So let's get these guys here. I think that should be good. So you need your scissors, you need some thread, whatever thread you're used to using is fine. If you use a little thicker thread, it should be good. Now I am using a size 12 needle. I did use a size 10. I did find that places where I did knots in the 11 O's and trying to go through with a size 10 needle was getting a bit sticky. So I went ahead and changed to a size 12. But I am sure you can make do with a 10. So I'm going to move this up here. So you're going to grab one of your Iris Duos. This is the only time in this design that you'll be able to pick it up at any hole side that you want. Once you do this, you commit. So we're going to pick that up. I'm just going to hang on to it. Then you're going to take a 11 O, an 8 O, and an 11 O. Okay, and you're going to go through the second hole. So let's pick that up here. Just reposition myself here. So go through, you're coming out of this hole, you're going to go through this hole. And you're going to pull, I'm just going to tuck that like this, but you're going to pull your thread as close to the end, leaving a little tail just for a knot. You can use a stop bead. I did on this one. I think it's still there, yeah. So you can use a stop bead. But I like to add my own thread for the clasp that's separate from the bracelet in case it breaks, then your beads don't fall off. So that's why I do it that way. Actually, let's pull that through. So now this is what you have so far. You're going to do the same on this side. So you need an 11 O, an 8 O, and an 11-0. Let's bring that down. I'm going to move this up. Okay, like that. Now you're going to take your tail and you're going to make a knot. Put that in there. Like that, not like that. Here, let me hold that with my fingernail. Bring it down to the edge like that. Okay? You can add 1 or 2 more knots. That's dependent on you and how confident you feel your knot is tight enough. Or, like I said, you can use a stop bead. I like to get rid of my tail as soon as possible. So that's, let me tighten that. And I'm going to add another knot. It's not going anywhere. So that is what it looks like. That's your beginning spot. And I'm going to clip this like that. Just a tiny little bit there. You can use your thread burner. And I'm going to go through the iris duo. So when I hide my knots, I always hide it in the biggest hole of the biggest bead. So that's why I'm going that way. So let's go through here, and you'll see it'll just slide in there. We don't need our scissors now. And tuck that in like that. Okay, so now go through these guys. Now you can go through everything again just to be sure. Actually, let's do that. That way it secures your knot, so if you pull on it, you're not going to be necessarily pulling on the very edge of that knot. So I'm just going to go through everything again. That. You can see the little tail there. We will just get that in there. Let me see if I can pop that in there. There. Gone. So that will tell you too if your knot is secure. If you go to pull it and it just slides in. If it doesn't slide in, it's because it'll loosen and come apart. So this is, we're going to come out of the 11-0 here. And I think I'm going to enlarge this. These are tiny beads, so just remember that that's what you're dealing with. And again, I'm going to move this up so that you can see the mat in the background. See better. So now what you want to do, so I'm going to stop right here, and you could do a screenshot of this. This is what you're going to look for at times. So when you add an iris duo, you're going to look to have these 2 8/0s on the long side with an 11/0 on each side. So this is the pattern that you're going to be looking at. You're going to be making a lot of these. Then the second pattern is this next step. So for the second pattern, you're going to add 2 11/0s, an 8/0, and 2 11/0s. Oops, that's 3. I can't count. So this is really slow right now, but once, I show you this a couple of times, we will speed it up. And you can always fast forward. So you have 2 11/0s, an 8/0, 2 11/0s. You're coming out of this 11/0. You are going to go all the way around the iris duo, and you're going to go through the 11/0. So basically you want to go through the 11/0, the 8/0, the 11/0, but because it's on an angle, you have to do it in a couple of steps. Otherwise you'll bend your needle. So like that. Pull that through and just pop those beads down there and snug it up. And there's your first side of your iris duo. And you could make earrings with these. They're so beautiful. And go through. Don't forget to go through this 11-0. I do it all the time. I forget. And I put my beads on. I'm like, why is it sitting funny? And then I realized I forgot to go through that second 11-0. So we're going to go ahead and add 2 11-0s, an 8-0, and 2 more 11-0s, like that. And hang on to your beads. You're coming out of this 11-0. You're going to go around the end of the iris duo and go through the 11-0 and the 8-0. Now here is another step that you could take. Depends on how you feel about your beadwork. Some people will reinforce their beadwork and go through all the way around a second time. I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just going to show you straight up. But definitely if you feel you want to secure everything in tight, go through it again. So you should end with your needle coming out of the 8-0. So the next step is, so let me put this down to show you here to refresh what we're looking to achieve. So that's that bead there. So now, because the thread's coming out of the left side of your 8-0, then you want to, actually, you know what? We need to come down here. Sorry, skipped a step there. So yeah, so we're going to come down to this spot here, right here. Okay, let me get this in line here. So we go through. There's a few ways you could achieve the same thing. So part of this design is figuring out which way you want to do it. So I'm going to show you what I feel is the easiest, but definitely you can, find a different thread path is what I'm getting at. So you're going to go through all these beads to this 8-0 here. So let's bring that down. There, so that's done. So now we can add the 3 8-0s here to create our loop. So we're coming out of this side, we're going to go in this side. And I'm just moving it around, which is easier to maneuver through. Let's get this guy in here. Okay, I want to keep it on one side because it'll make more sense to you. So let's take a look at our work so we can, so that's what we just added, this here. So we are coming out of this bead here, we're going to go up and around to this 8-0, and then we're going to add this guy here. We'll see if we add, I think it's been a week since I did this, and I think what I did was I ended up adding these little sections along to make it easier, but we'll see if we can do it after. So this is like really loose. This needs to go through around a second time. So I'm going to go all the way around this one and then come back up. So I have it upside down right now. So now we want to go through these two. Okay. And I do believe we go through the next one. But you can see how it's a bit loose there. You see the thread. We'll try and tighten that. There, that worked. Okay. So now we're going to go to this bead here. So to do that, we are going to add 3 seed beads. See, on this one I only added 2. So this was the beginning of this bracelet. I was like figuring out the pattern as I went. So there should be a 3rd bead here. So we're going to add these 3 and then add these guys. So let's do 3 11-ohs. Go through this 8-oh at the top of the one with the Irish duo like this. And then add 3 8-ohs like that. Coming out of this 8-oh, you're going to go into the other side and you're going to pull everything snug like that. And you're going to go through those beads again like that. Go back down here, down that one, those 2. And now we are going to go up through 1 11-oh. And that's going to pull that in like that. Let me see. Yeah, no, I need to go through 2. I thought there was something. Actually, we're going to go through to the end. I apologize. This is the starting position is a bit funky. That. So this is the starting bead for one of these pieces. So that would be that bead there. So now we're going to add so we're going to think of that first setting that I mentioned where you have the Irish duo, you have an 11-oh, an 8-oh, 11-oh, Irish duo, and then 11-8. So that's what we want to create right here. So let's put that down and let's put our next Irish duo here. So that's going to sit in that snug. So we need an 11-oh. Then we go through. So here's where you pay attention to the hole, the side of the hole that you're going through. Let's just make sure I have that correct. Yeah. So we're going to go through the left side hole. Then, so let's take a look at that. We're going to pick up an 11-oh, an 8-oh, an 11-oh. And we're going to go through the second hole, come down. Let's get that into position next to the others so you have an idea of where everything goes. So we need our 11-oh here. If you look, there's your 8-oh. So you're going to go through that 11-oh. Let's go through that 11-oh and then just the 8-oh. There. The other thing with doing this is it is a little easier when it's easier to hold on to. You have something to grab. So we want to create these areas here. So you're going to go through that 11-oh. Like that. Then we're going to pick up. So now we're looking at the second pattern I mentioned. The 2 11-ohs, an 8-oh. It's hard to pick up sometimes. 2. So this is what you need. we are going to set these up around the iris duo. So go through the 11-0 and the 8-0. That in there. Go through your 11-0. And then we're going to add 2 11-0s because we already have an 8-0 and we already have our 11-0s here. So we just add 2 11-0 and then go through the 8-0. Get that in there. Okay. So now we want to go to this side here and add one of these to that side. So we are going to follow this around. So we're going to go through the 8-0s, 2 of them, like this. So now we are working on the opposite side of this, but we're working at this point. So this is a little different. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0s and the iris duo. Let me grab that here. I'm going to set it there so we know which side to go through. So actually, you know what? There might be an easier way to do this. Yeah. So let's not do it this way. And I apologize. This, like I said, the starting step is confusing. So actually, what we want to do is, let's move that. Let's come back out of this 8-0. And we're going to come down to this 8-0. So we are going to go through these 11-0s to get there. And the 8-0, like that. That nice. So now what we want to do is create this set of 4 8-0s. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's actually 3 that we're adding to the 1. And we're coming out of that side, so we're going to go in the opposite side. Oops. Like that. Let's go through it a second time to keep them in place. Pull tight in the position that you want them. So now let's go through the next 3, and that will get us set up for the next design. There. So let's go through this one. That's the top one. There, like that. Okay, so now think of the pattern, the initial pattern where we go through the iris duo and only add the 11-0 and the 8-0. So now this is important to see. Put your iris duo there. You can see the thread's already going to the spot where it wants to go. So that's why I set it down so you can see the pattern of which hole to go through. So you pick up an 11-0 and you go through that bottom left hole. So let's go through that bottom. I'm going to bring this down so you can see what I'm talking about. There. You can see it wants to flip around, but show them who's boss. Okay, so you have the 111 So now you need an 11 an 8 11 and then come through the iris, add an 11 So like that. Go through the second hole. Hang on to your work like that. We will tighten that once we get through again. Add your 11 to this 8 Hang on to this. So I'm pulling it, getting it in there snug. Okay, so now you're going to go through this 11 here. So this one's slightly different from the other side because the other side we added 2 11 and 8 2 11 We have our 8 right here. So we're just going to add 2 11 Go through your 8 and watch what happens. It's magic. Okay, it still looks like it's really out of place. It should be kind of curled in, but once we add our 2 11 it will snug in. So now we're going to add 2 11 because we always want 3 on each side of the 8 So we have one already. So we add 2 and we are going to go through the 11 and the 8 And if you can get through the other 11 go for it, but I think I want to preserve my needle. So let's pull that through and watch what happens. It's magic. Ta-da! So let's go through this 11 and now we are going to add 2 11 an 8 and 2 11 like that. Coming out of this side, we're going to go through this 11 and you can go through however many you can get through. I think I'll do just the 2 and pull that. And you see it's loose, so just pull everything tight and it snugs it up. So there is the first set. So now we want to add this one here to the middle here. So let's go through the beads, and however you get there is fine, but this is the path I'm going to take. So let's go through the 11 and that'll snug everything up again. Through the 11 and this will go through everything. The 2 8 and we are ready, Freddy. Okay, that. So now remember the initial pattern we had like this. We're going to do that, and I'm going to. So if you take a look, use your 8 as your guide. Which side is your thread coming out of? If it's coming out of the left, then you want to go into the left bead hole, left bottom. If you're coming out of the right, you want to go into the right bottom hole. So if you're not sure, just set it like that and then figure it out. So remember, and I sound like a broken record, our initial pattern of an 11 an iris duo, an 11 an 8 an 11 and then through your iris duo, then add another 11 That's what we're going to add. That's the pattern that I had you do a screenshot of. That's going to come up frequently through this. And once you have that cemented, it's just a little bit of maneuvering where you put your thread for getting to the sections you want. So like that. We want a 11 an 8 an 11 We're going to come through the second hole, come down through the second hole. There. Don't worry if your bead moves around. It will slide down pretty good. Like that. Okay. So let's get an 11-0. We're going to go through the 8-0, the 11-0, and then we're going to add this side. But remember, now we have these combined 8-0s that we're going to use for this guy. They look like they're far away, but once we add the beads, it'll all kind of squinch together. So let's go through our 8-0 and our 11-0. Let me get that in my hand. Be a little easier like that. And tighten. There. Okay, so we have one here. So remember, we always want 3 11-0s on each side of the 8-0s. We have one already. We're going to add 2. And we already have an 8-0 on the edge here. And we want them connected. So we're going to go through here. Like that. Again, it looks really, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, sorry, yeah, I am wrong. Apologize, take that out. We need to add our set of 4 8-0s. So let's go take these off here for a sec. I mean, you could actually add your 8-0 now. There's a couple of options for this design. So I've added an 8-0 and actually I just need the one. No, 2, I guess. Yeah, 2. Go through these guys. So there's a couple of ways to do it. I apologize, I want to try and do it all the same way. So you can see these will be ready to attach together once we get around. So go through your 11-0. Then you're going to add 2, 1, 2. Go through this 11-0 and the 8-0. See what I'm going to do like that. So now this one's loose, it's not attached to anything. So we are going to come through to this and we're going to add the other 2 that are missing. So let's go through the 11-0s. And you could actually, depending on how you want your thread to go, you could come down this way, but then you would see the thread there. So let's go through these guys. And in here. Let's just go through those 11s first. There. Go through the 8-0. So I apologize. I feel now that I'm doing it, this does look actually pretty complicated. But you know what? It is repetitive. So if you break it down to each little step, like I suggested, then it will seem easier. And you saw the finished bracelet. It's so worth doing. So you pick up the 2 8-0s. You're going to go through this 8-0 and through the next 8-0. And I think we should go through. So I do find with the 8-0s, it's a good idea to go through it a second time. And that's just because the holes are so big. So they're kind of loosey-goosey. So let's do that again. And you can see it's kind of loose there, but we'll tighten that up. Like that. So now we want to go to the other side and add. You could essentially work on this side and add the next, this one here, up here. I like to get the other side in there. But that again is just your preference. So we're going to come through and we're going to put these on and then add. So Here's one of the things that I figured out to do too is once we go through this 8-0 is I'm going to add my 3 that are missing here, and they'll be ready for when I get the sides done. So let's go through to that 8-0. And I only go through it once because when I come back around, I'm going to go through it again, so I don't worry, but you could go through it a second time. So pick up 3. There's 3. Go through to the other side of that 8-0. Pull it down. Now you want to go through these 11-0s and the 8-0, and you can go through pick up the other 8-0 as well, like that. And snug, and then it kind of pops those in. Let's add our 2 that are missing and go through these 2 here of the 8-0s. Like that. Then we are going to add our next set of beads. So let's go through these 2. Now we're ready to add one of these to there. Okay, so we need to pick up 1 11-0. I'm going to set my iris duo down in place, and we are coming out of the left side of this 8-0, so we are going to go through the bottom left side hole like that. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, an 11-0. We are going to go down the second hole, and we'll try and hang on to that. That's in there. Pick up an 11-0, go through your 8-0 and your 11-0 like that. I'm going to hang on to it here. Pull through, and I'm just going to make sure everything's nicely positioned. So now we want to finish this off. So we already have our 8-0 on this side, so we're going to add 2 11-0s, go through the 8-0, 2 11-0s, come up here. So 2, go through the 8-0. So that was one of the reasons why I set myself up here, because then if I didn't put that there, I would have to go around and through here and get it, or I would take and add it to this one and it would be loose until I added the middle. So that's kind of a preference thing. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So now we need 2 8-0s here. Sorry, 2 11-0s. Then we're going to go through the 8-0, sorry, the 11-0, the 8-0, and pull it snug. Go through the 11-0. That. Pick up 2 11-0s, 1 8-0, 2 11-0s. Go through your 11-0, and I'm going to go through my 8-0 as well. And move those guys over because you kind of want the 8-0s to sit at the point on each side. So now let's go over to the other side. So we're going to go through the 11-0s. A needle in there. And I'm following the bead path, or the thread path. So you always want to go in the same direction, whether, so it circles kind of thing. So coming out of here, we want to add to this guy. So we're going to find our way up to this bead. So that means we have to go through this way. You could take a turn if you want. I prefer to do it in the path of the thread. So that means now we know that one of these 11 O's is attached to the super or the iris duo. So you can go all the way around all these beads, or you could just go through the iris, like through that 11 O, through the iris, and come out the other side like that. Then go through the 11 O, and then you're ready to come up this way. So let's just go through everything now like that, and it just secures everything again. So let's go through these 11 O's. Here's an argument for using a size 12 needle is I find it so much easier to get in between the beads. So let's just try this there. So that went through all of those guys. And pull through. So now we are ready to add our iris duo to this side. I'm going to bring my thread down a bit. I am surprised. So these are John James beading needles, and this is a size 12, and my thread is loose in the hole. It is super easy to thread. You know what? I like this needle better than any of the needles I've used yet. It has some give, but it doesn't get like super bent. So that is yummy. In beading terms, that is. So let's get our super duo in position. We are coming out of the left hand side of the 8-0, so we're going to go into the bottom of the left hand hole of that iris duo. Remembering our pattern of an 11-0 iris duo, 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and then iris duo, 11-0. So let's add the 11, the 8, and the 11. Go through the second hole, down, trying to hold it, but it's a little sketch like that. So now we're just dealing with this little area here. Just ignore the other stuff. Pick up your 11-0, go through your 8-0 to complete that first pattern that I talked to you about. I'm going to go through my 11-0 on the other side as well. Everything's loose, not a big deal. It's all going to snug up like that. There. Okay, so now we are going to add the side to that iris duo. So we need two 11-0s, an 8-0, and two 11-0s, like that. And we are going to go through this 11-0 and the 8-0. Try and do it so that it's flat so you can see. I may have to pick it up. It just doesn't. My eyesight's not the best. I'm due for a vision test, and my vision has impaired. But you're gonna think this is a bit crazy, but next week I find out the results of the biopsy, the breast biopsy. So I want to make sure if I need radiation therapy, there is some risk of changes, or any type of therapy, there's risk of changes to your vision. So I thought I'm going to wait till after, and because we can only be tested every 2 years. I mean, I can be tested sooner and pay for it, but with my insurance, it only covers every 2 years. So 2 11/0s coming out of this one here. We're going to go through this 8/0 here. And just to remember too, if you're watching this and this is something you really want to do and you find it confusing, because you know what, I feel a bit bad. The beginning was a bit confusing because I was making decisions on the fly. Definitely ask me questions, and if I can review it or I can clarify stuff. This is all new to me too, so okay, so I'm coming out of this 8/0. I've added my 2 11/0s. I'm going to go through my 11/0 and my 8/0, and that will get that all snug-a-boo. So now I'm just going to go through everything and come out so I can add the middle piece here. And I think that should do it for the design pattern. You just keep doing that over and over. So if it's confusing, please let me know. I will work on that. I may have to write out the steps and then, but part of it was apologize. The name of my channel is called Baby Squirrel Beading. There's a reason for the squirrel. I get doing designs and then I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next design even before I get a chance to do the video. And I can do, because this is a new design for me, I'm like kind of figuring it out as I go. So I'm going to go through all of these guys and I'm going to position myself nicely in the middle. So I'm going to go through these 2 8/0s and we will do this last section. So you can see too, I think I did one here with different size beads. It's not flat as I would like it, but you can see how you're using different color beads. But you could do just that section there and make earrings with it. Or you could do that section and then add a second iris duo here or 2 here, depending on how long you want your earrings. So there's lots of options with this design. Okay, so now we're looking at the basic pattern. So we need a 11/0. We're coming through the left of the 8/0, so we're going to go into the bottom left of the iris duo. Put that down there. We need an 11/0, an 8/0, an 11/0. We're going to go through the second hole at the top, pull that all through like that. Then we're going to add an 11/0. We are going to go through the 8/0 and the 11/0. Like that. And we're going to pull it tight. So now we're going to add the sides to this section, and then that will leave these beads here to be snugged together. So we need 2 11/0, an 8/0, and 2 11/0s like that for the side corners. So we're going to set these in here and we're going to go through these beads here. And so you see it's all kind of mashed up. Just pop those 11/0s in place and the 8/0 will sit right in the middle. And I'm going to lose my thread here. That's the only thing about these needles. I like it how easy they are to thread, but when you're getting to the end and you start to pull, sometimes your thread comes out. But it's not as bad as some of the needles that I've gone through. So go through your 11/0 and pick up 2 11/0s, an 8/0, and 2 11/0s. going to go through this 11-0, and we're going to go through these guys. Snug those in like that. Let's go ahead and put our little side ones here. So the thread is coming through here. You could go back up this way. It's probably the fastest way through your 11-0s. Like that. And then go through this 8-0. Add 2 8-0s because you have 2 here. You're going to go through these guys and go through it a second time. And I'm just going to turn that, make it easier. And I'm going to go through these 2 like that. And I'm going to snug it up. And your thread does get hooked on beads, so a second time. My heavens. It did it a third. Okay, let me block those. There we go. So let's go up over these guys. You can flip your work like that. It might be easier to get through things. Go through these 11-0s, through the 8-0, and through these 11-0s. Like that. Show you where I'm at. So I'll go through this 8-0, through the second 8-0. We're going to add 2 8-0s. And go through those a few times, and I'm at the end of my thread. It keeps wanting to come out, so I am going to end my thread. Super easy to end your thread, and I'll show you how to add. How's that? Give you a heads up, but that's like preference too for you. So I'm gonna, did I go through twice already? No, I'm gonna go through a second time here. And down through here, okay, like that. So I am just, this is how I add thread, but you know what? There's tons of videos out there on how to add thread. So I'm ending my thread first of all. So I find a path or a strand. I try and get it so that the knot, when I pull it, will go through a large bead, but there's not a lot of options here, so it will go through the 11-0, and the thread came off. So let me fix that. Thought I had it. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm gonna poke my needle through and kind of grab a strand of thread there. And I'm just gonna wrap it around my needle. I do it twice, you don't have to, once is enough. And I usually kind of hold it so the knot doesn't get loose. So you can see there's the knot. Now I am gonna make it a little tighter so it's smaller. So my thread path had gone around this way, so now I need to go this way. So I'm going to go through these 11-0s. And you might want to be careful where you put your knot on this design, because there's a lot of like going through, bringing your needle and thread to another side, so you have to be careful. Just like that. You can't see that now. I didn't actually bring it all the way through. So you can end your thread there, or you can do like I do. Sometimes I'll just go add another knot there and then go through. But you know what? I think that is fine for this one. So I'm just gonna pull that snug, clip that. That is ready to go. So let's add some thread here. So I'm using an arm span, but if you feel comfortable, you can use a bit more. I wouldn't use any more than that. It's this is going to use up a lot of thread, but if you use more than that, it's just going to get knotted and you're going to get frustrated. So I just like thin out the edge so that it'll pass through the eye of the needle. And there's actually, that thread was broken, but it went through anyway. It had split in two. So I'm gonna go through. I want to put my knot somewhere, say below here. I don't want it anywhere close to these three guys. So I would maybe go through here and go through the 11 O's. So I try and find little beads to bring the tail through to start with. So like that through these. So that'll hold the tail in there. And I know this is FYI, but a lot of it, or TMI, sorry. If you do this a lot, you're like, yeah, whatever. Everybody has their own technique, but if you don't know about doing stuff, this is just my tricks for that. So I left a bit of a tail here. I used to leave it right there, and then inevitably it would work out, and then I'd have to start all over. So I leave a bit of a tail, sometimes even longer. It's worth it for your frustration. So you know where you started, and then you can always cut that off. So we're coming out of this 11-0. I'm just going to grab a hold of this thread here, coming into the 8-0. I put my needle on the bottom side of that thread and hang on to it. Then take your good thread and wrap it around. Again, you don't have to do it twice. I do, and I pull it down, then pinch it, push my needle through like that, go all the way through, and you can see. So that's why you hold the knot, but it's no big deal. It will eventually tie. So there's the knot. Now we are going to, sometimes I pull it a little tighter and then I go through the 8-0 and pull. Now I want to position myself ready to start adding. So I think we'll add to this side here. So we're coming out of this 8-0, we're going to go up through this one. So just find your spot where you want to position your thread. I have to untangle it from the scissors. Then I go through like that. Through, and you can add a second knot on your way over there, but really that's like super duper overkill. But I do it all the time. 2 is like, definitely I'm doing 2. I think for the video I tend, so then I go back here and cut this. And there you go. You are ready to start continuing. So let's take a look at finishing up the other bracelet. So that's our clasp. So like I said, I had the stop bead here. So let's use this thread to add our wire guardian. So let's grab that here and make that smooth. hold it between your fingers. So it's kind of hard to see there. You can kind of see it. So you pinch it and you put your needle on. So there's the hole, the eye of the needle. And this is definitely the easier way to thread. Your needle. Helps if you can see there. So there's not a lot left on this. I wouldn't do anything else with this except add this wire guardian. So it is not in the right position. You see it's coming out of the iris duo. You could put it there, but you know what? Then your guardian's going to sit behind. I want it to sit on top of the beads. So let's go through the 11-0 like that, and then we're going to add our wire guard. So go through the wire, one side of the wire guardian, and then you're going to go through the second side and through the 11-0, and make sure your thread goes into the channel. I've had it where it's not gone into the channel. Annoying! Because it just comes across. Okay, so now I want this to stay really secure and strong, so I'm going to go through the iris. So we're going to go down through the iris too. There. And normally I would want that to sit a little higher, but I'm not too concerned because it's going to be a little too big for my wrist anyway. So now I'm going to go through. I don't want the thread to be through here, so I'm going to go through these beads to bridge it. So the 11-0, the 8-0, the 11-0, and then we can go through the iris. Come back around, snug, go through the 11-0 and your wire guardian. Let's get in here. That. Let's watch it gets hooked. That stuff. That. Go around and through the 11-0. And then we are going to tie this off like that. So, I wonder if I could do it here and then. So I'm hooking my needle under the thread that went through the iris duo, and I'm going to take this end and twist it twice, bring it tight to the hole, hold it, pinch it with your finger, and tighten that, and then go through here, and it will snug it into the hole. And then let's just hide our tail of our thread, go through the 8-0 and through these 3 11-0s. I can get in there like that. There. Pull through, take your needle off and cut this. So now you have, ta-da! So you can see these, oh, I added 11-0s. Oh, I didn't finish the embellishment. So that's the other thing too, is you can add embellishment to the end of your bracelet. So that's why that's at so low. And basically all I'm doing is adding 1, 2, 3, 4. I added 4. And I added a little bead on each side of the 8-0. So you can do it either way. I will leave it this way. Actually, I kind of like it this way. And I found this was nice, but it took away from the pattern, I felt. So there's your choices. So let's add our tools here. I'm going to do that one and this one here. Get our pliers. Find the opening of your jump ring. I'm using a small jump ring because of my hand, like wrist size being small, and I overestimated the size of the bracelet. Turn this. So always twist to open, and these are, I don't know where I got these on AliExpress, but they are so strong I can't separate them with with one finger. And add it to yeah, you can see I went through a couple of times on this side. So all you can see is thread. And then close it. It's nice and closed. Let's add to the other side. And open that up. The twist. Grab the magnet and go through your wire guardian. There. Oh yeah, that is nice. But you can see the distance. This is going to be loose on me. Let's take a look. So I may have to, well, I think what I'll do is this will be a gift and then I'll make a new one with the one we started. Yeah, just actually, you know what? Actually, it's nice. I don't normally like them where they fall down. I like them tighter. But that looks amazing. And there is the clasp. So you can see you can have it like that, or you can have it like that. I think for consistency's sake, I will add the beads to the other side. But there you go. It feels really nice on. That turned out really nice. So there you go. Thank you for joining me. That was fun. Let me open this up a bit. Ta-da! Is this bracelet that big that it won't be in the whole frame? Oh, there we go. I'm learning how to use my camera. No, I'm just kidding. There we go. Take care, everybody. Please, questions if you have any issues. I'll do my best to answer them. And if we have to do a remedial for Emma. Take care. Bye.